In this video, I'm going to show you how to order decimals. So I've got a set of 4 different decimals here written at the bottom of the screen. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to stack all of these decimals up and write them where their digits are in the correct place values. So I'm going to start with my first number, 38 and 256 hundredths. And I'm going to write it in my place value chart right here. Now, even if you don't have a place value chart, you can just stack them all up where each place value is correctly on top of each other. So my next number, 38 and 56 hundredths. I'm making sure that I'm lining everything up properly with their place values. 38 and 2 tenths. And then 38 and 602 thousandths. Now, when you're comparing numbers, you always want to start it in the leftmost place value because any number, as you go to the left, the place values get larger. So we're going to start right here with the tens place, and all of these digits are the same. So each one of these all have 3 tens. That doesn't really tell me anything, so I'm going to move to the next place value. The ones place, they're all eights. Again, I'm going to keep moving to the right until I find something that's different. Of course, here's my decimals. And now in the tenths place, I see some different digits. So if I'm looking to put these in order from least to greatest, I'm looking for the smallest digits here. So I see 2's in 2 of the numbers. So these 2 numbers, the red one here and the green one here, are the ones that now I'm going to start comparing. For the time being, I'm going to ignore my blue number and my purple number and just compare this red one and this green one. If I look at the next place value in them, I see a 5 and I see a blank. Now this blank really means that it has a 0 in that place value. So I'm going to make an equivalent decimal and put my 0 in that place value so I can properly compare it. So now going back to comparing this digit, the 5 and the 0 is smaller. So this right here is my smallest number of my set of numbers. I'm going to put a 1. I'm going to circle that underneath of it. That tells me that will, if I'm putting them in order, that will be order number 1. Now I already know which one will be number 2, and that's going to be my red one because I was comparing it to the green one, and the green one was smaller, but that makes the red one be the next smallest. So now what I have to do left is compare my blue number right here with my purple number. Again, both the blue one and the purple one had the same values in the tens and the ones, but the blue one has fewer tenths than the purple one, so the bluer one is going to be a smaller number than the purple one. So I now know that the blue one is my number 3 and the purple is my number 4. So let's look at another example. I'm going to erase all this and we'll come up with some new numbers here. So let's do 4 and 7 thousandths. We'll do 4 and 7 tenths, 4 and 67 hundredths, and let's do 4 and 6 hundredths. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of these into my place value chart. I have 4 and 7 thousandths, 4 and 7 tenths, 4 and 67 hundredths, and 4 and 6 hundredths. And anytime you're comparing decimals, it's probably wise for after you get all your numbers stacked up according to their place values, it's probably wise for you to go ahead and make any equivalent decimals that you need to so that every one of your decimals has equivalent place values. So now I have all of my decimals have digits all the way through the thousandths place. That's just a good practice because you're going to need to do that when you start adding and subtracting decimals anyway. So let's assume that I'm putting these in order from least to greatest again. I'm going to start by comparing the greatest place value, in this case the units. They're all the same. My next place value is the tenths, and I see a 0 here and a 0 here. So I know it's going to be one of these 2 numbers, the red number or the purple number here. One of these 2 numbers is going to be my smallest number. So because these are both zeros, I'm going to have to keep going. The next digit here in the hundreds place, this one has no hundreds, this one has 600s. No hundreds is smaller than 600s. So my red number is my smallest number. I'm going to put a 1 by it. And my purple number is my next smallest number. I'm going to put a 2 by it. So now I just have to compare my last two numbers, which is the blue number and the green number. They both had the 4s and the 1s. The green number has a 6 in the tenths, and the blue has a 7 in the tenths. 6 is smaller than 7. So my green number is my next smallest number. So 3, and the blue number would be my largest number. So this problem is a good example of not assuming that just because a number has more digits than another number, that makes it larger. The amount of digits that a number has nothing to do with the value of that number. So, for example, this number right here, 4 7/1000ths, it had 1, 2, 3, 4 digits. It went all the way to the thousandths place, but it was actually my smallest number. The one that had the fewest digits, 4 7/10ths, 2 digits right here, and only went to the tenths place, it was actually my largest number. And we can see why that is when we look up here at the place value chart, that it was really 4 700 thousandths when my smallest one was 4 7 thousandths. It all depends on where those digits are, what place value those digits are in, that determines the value of those digits. So just as another example to kind of illustrate that point, I can have a number like this, 4, and give it a whole bunch of zeros, and then a 1 and whatever place value that is. Obviously, that's just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit larger than 4. So that has a whole lot of place values. And this right here has 1 place value. The 5 is obviously larger than the 4 plus the tiny little fraction there. So it doesn't make any difference how many digits a number has. What we're looking for is what are the value of those digits. And in this example again here, the value of the 1's place is greater in the 5 than it is in the 4. So the 5 is greater than the entire number right here. All right, let's look at one last example, this time without using a place value chart. So let's say I have 3 28 hundredths and 3 802 thousandths, 3 208 thousandths, 3 8 tenths, 3 2 hundredths, and we'll try to put these in order from least to greatest. The first thing that I want to do is I want to stack all of these up and line them up according to place value. So I'm going to look for the 1's place in all of my numbers, which in this case is 3 in every one of them. So I'm going to make sure that I line up the 3's with each other. And when you're doing this, you want to try to write as neatly as you can so that we don't accidentally get our digits not in the correct place values. Unless you're using some sort of grid paper or something that will help you line things up, you just need to make sure you write neatly enough that we can tell which place value each digit is in. One trick that you may use if you're using notebook paper is you can always turn your notebook paper on the side, and then you have nice, neat columns that you can put your numbers in. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put in zeros in any blank place values so that I'm forming equivalent decimals. It's not changing the value of my decimals, but it's just making sure that I can compare place values with each other. So now I'm going to start comparing from left to right from the greatest place value. So they're all 3's right here. Next, I'm looking for the smallest number because I'm putting least to greatest, and a 0 is the smallest one. So out to the side, I'm just going to put a 1 out to the side right here. This is my smallest number. I'm done with that one, so I'm going to go back and look just at the rest of them. It's the same place value that I was before. I see two numbers that have 2's in the tenths. So I'm going to have to go to the next place value with them. This one has an 8. This one has a 0. 0 is smaller, so it will be my second smallest number. And then this one will be my third smallest number. Now I have 2 more numbers to compare, 3 802 thousandths with 3 8 tenths. My 1's places were the same, tenths places were the same, hundredths places are the same, and the thousandths place, a 0 is smaller than a 2. So this one right here will be number 4, and 3 and 802 thousandths will be my smallest or my largest number. So now I've put my decimals in order from least to greatest.